She just wanted a quiet meal in a small-town diner, but when cruel bullies targeted her because of her disability, something happened that no one in the room would ever forget. And it all began when the diner doors swung open. The rain came down steady that night, drumming against the wide glass windows of a small-town diner. Inside, the golden glow of neon lights reflected off chrome counters and red leather booths, giving the place a warm, almost nostalgic feel. Waitresses in aprons moved between tables, balancing trays of steaming coffee and plates of fries, while an old jukebox hummed softly in the corner. It was the kind of diner where everyone seemed to know each other, everyone except Emily. Emily sat tucked away in the last booth near the window, her wheelchair pulled close to the table. She was just 17, with soft brown hair pulled into a ponytail and eyes that held both quiet strength and a trace of loneliness. In front of her sat a vanilla milkshake topped with whipped cream and a single cherry, her favorite. It was a small treat she saved for on the hardest days, a way to remind herself that simple joys still mattered. To anyone else, it was just another rainy evening. But for Emily, nights like this carried a weight. She was used to the stares, the whispers, the way people sometimes looked at her chair before they looked at her. She had grown accustomed to people underestimating her, thinking of her as fragile, different, or worse, invisible. But tonight, she wanted none of that. Tonight, she wanted to sip her milkshake in peace, watch the raindrops race down the glass, and pretend, even for just an hour, that she was like everyone else. As she stirred the straw through the creamy shake, Emily smiled faintly at the sight of a young couple sharing fries a few booths away. She wasn't jealous, at least, not exactly. She just longed for a moment of belonging, a world where she didn't feel like an outsider looking in. The diner staff passed her with polite nods, and the other customers barely glanced her way. And honestly, she was grateful for the quiet. Silence, she had learned, was sometimes a gift. But just as Emily began to relax into the warmth of the diner and the sweetness of her milkshake, the door creaked open. A burst of laughter cut through the air, harsh and mocking. A group of teenage boys swaggered inside, their voices loud, their presence demanding attention. Emily's heart sank. She knew them. And she knew, her quiet evening was about to be shattered. The group of boys stormed into the diner like they owned the place. Their sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, and their laughter was loud enough to drown out the jukebox. They didn't notice, or care, that the other customers stiffened in their seats. Trouble had walked in, and everyone could feel it. Emily's heart sank deeper with every step they took. She knew them from school. The kind who thrived on weakness, who laughed at pain, who made others feel small just to feel big themselves. She had been their target before, but she had hoped, prayed, that tonight would be different. The boys ordered nothing. They didn't sit down. Instead, their eyes scanned the diner like hunters searching for prey. And then they saw her. One boy smirked and elbowed his friend. "Look who it is," he whispered loudly enough for half the diner to hear. "Wheelchair girl." Emily stared at her milkshake, gripping the straw with trembling fingers. She prayed they would just pass by. But they didn't. They circled her booth like vultures, leaning too close, their shadows swallowing her small space. "What's the matter, Emily?" another sneered, his voice dripping with cruelty. "Couldn't find anyone to eat with you?" "Oh wait, who'd want to?" Their laughter exploded like firecrackers, filling every corner of the diner. The customers nearby kept their eyes glued to their plates, pretending not to hear. The waitresses froze, unsure whether to step in or look away. Then it happened. One of the boys reached over and shoved her milkshake, tipping it sideways. The glass toppled, spilling creamy white liquid across the table and dripping down onto her lap. Emily gasped, her cheeks flushing hot with humiliation. "Oops," the boy smirked, feigning innocence. "Guess you can't even hold on to a drink, huh?" Tears blurred Emily's vision, but she tried to stay strong. She whispered, almost to herself, "Please, just stop." But cruelty feeds on silence. Another boy leaned closer, his face twisted with a mocking grin. And then, in an act of sheer heartlessness, he slapped her across the face. The sound echoed. The diner fell into absolute silence. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Her body shook, not just from pain, but from the unbearable weight of being so utterly alone. And yet, as the bullies laughed and strutted back like conquerors, none of them knew, the door was about to open again. And this time, everything would change. The diner was frozen in silence after the slap. Emily's cheeks stung, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and her hands clenched helplessly against the table. The bullies smirked, their cruel laughter bouncing off the chrome walls. To them, this was victory. To everyone else, it was a moment of shame, because no one had stood up for her. And then, the sound came. Clink. The bell above the diner door jingled, breaking the heavy quiet. A gust of cold night air swept in, carrying the scent of rain and gasoline. Heads turned. The bullies' laughter cut short. And through the door stepped a group of men and women dressed in leather jackets, their heavy boots thudding against the linoleum floor with each step. Bikers. There were 6 of them, broad-shouldered, with tattoos inked across their arms and helmets tucked under their arms. To anyone who didn't know better, they looked like trouble, the kind of people you avoided crossing paths with. Their presence filled the small diner instantly, making the bullies shrink just a little without even realizing it. Emily glanced up, her tear-filled eyes catching on the leader. He was a tall man with a thick beard, a scar running down his cheek, and a patch on his jacket that read, "Iron Guardians." His expression was stone-cold serious as his gaze swept across the room. At first, nobody moved. The staff froze in place, customers whispered nervously, and the bullies exchanged uneasy glances. They had walked in loud and arrogant, but now, standing before these intimidating strangers, their confidence wavered. The bikers walked in a slow line toward the counter, their boots echoing like a drumbeat. The leader took a seat on a stool, motioning for his crew to spread out. Yet even as he ordered a coffee, his sharp eyes never left the scene near Emily's booth. He saw the spilled milkshake. He saw the tears glistening on her cheeks. He saw the way the bullies still hovered nearby, smug but restless. And then, he looked at Emily. Their eyes met. Hers were wide, filled with fear and hurt. His softened instantly, as though beneath the rough exterior lived something far more powerful than intimidation, compassion. He rose slowly from his stool. The diner grew quieter still. And as he walked toward Emily's table, the bullies stiffened. They didn't know it yet, but their night of cruelty was about to end. The diner seemed to hold its breath as the biker leader approached Emily's booth. His boots stopped just inches from the bullies, who suddenly didn't look so brave. The man crouched down so he was eye level with Emily. His voice, deep but gentle, cut through the heavy silence. "Are these guys bothering you, sweetheart?" Emily's lips trembled. She wanted to answer, but her voice caught in her throat. She simply nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. The leader turned his head slowly toward the bullies. His eyes, sharp as steel, locked on theirs. "You think you're tough?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying the weight of thunder. "Picking on a girl half your size? Someone who can't fight back?" One of the boys swallowed hard, his earlier smirk faltering. "We were just messing around," he stammered. "Messing around," another biker repeated, his voice thick with disbelief. He stepped forward, towering over the group. "That looked a whole lot like assault to me." The boys shifted uncomfortably. No one laughed now. Without another word, one of the bikers grabbed a stack of napkins from the counter and began wiping the spilled milkshake off Emily's table. Another slid into the booth beside her, offering a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, darling. We've got you now." Emily's tears kept flowing, but this time they weren't just from fear, they were from relief. For the first time that night, she felt protected. Seen. The leader straightened to his full height, towering over the bullies. His presence alone was enough to make them step back. "Here's how this is gonna go," he said, his tone firm. "You're gonna apologize. Right now. And then you're gonna walk out of here and think real hard about the kind of men you're becoming." The boys exchanged panicked looks. One muttered a shaky, "Sorry," while another barely whispered it, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Louder," the leader demanded. This time, they all said it together, voices trembling, "Sorry." "Good," the biker said, his voice low but final. "Now get out." The bullies didn't hesitate. They scrambled toward the door, shoving each other in their hurry to escape the diner. As the door slammed shut behind them, the diner finally exhaled. The customers looked up again, some nodding in approval, others even clapping quietly. Emily wiped her tears, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you," she whispered. And the biker leader, still standing tall beside her, simply said, "Fami." The tension that had gripped the diner slowly melted away after the bullies fled. Conversations resumed in hushed tones, and a few customers even offered quiet applause, grateful that someone had finally stood up. But for Emily, the world had shifted entirely. She sat trembling in her booth, her cheeks still wet with tears, when the biker leader gently slid into the seat across from her. His large frame filled the space, but his eyes were soft, full of warmth. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked, his tone so kind it nearly undid her all over again. Emily nodded, though her voice cracked. I didn't think anyone would help." The leader gave a small smile, then gestured to his crew. "These folks. We don't walk past people in need. Not ever." One of the bikers set a fresh milkshake in front of her, the cherry perched perfectly on top. "On the house," the waitress said from behind the counter, smiling at Emily. Another biker slid a basket of fries onto the table. "Best fries in town," he said with a wink. Emily's lips curved into the smallest, most fragile smile. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel weak. She felt surrounded, protected, like she belonged. The bikers chatted with her as though she were an old friend. They laughed, told stories from the road, and made silly jokes until her tears were replaced with giggles. The other customers watched in quiet awe as the rough-looking group revealed their gentlest sides, proving that appearances can be deceiving. Emily finally whispered, her voice trembling but full of gratitude, "Thank you, for seeing me." The leader leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "Listen, kiddo," he said softly. "Family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them most. Tonight, you're family." Her heart swelled at the words. In that small diner, on that rainy night, Emily realized something she would carry with her forever: kindness has power. It can silence cruelty, restore dignity, and remind us all that nobody is ever truly alone. As the bikers rose to leave, the leader gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Keep your head high. You're stronger than they'll ever be." And in that moment, Emily believed it. Sparkle's closing message for audience. Sometimes, the toughest exteriors hide the kindest hearts. True strength is not in hurting the weak, it's in protecting them. And when kindness takes a stand, it changes everything.